January 27, 1945, Cabanatuan, Luzon, Philippines. The moon is a thin silver scythe in a cold, cloudless sky. Shadows stretch long across the rice paddies, their stalks whispering in the wind. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks, and the faint scrape of Japanese boots echoes across the mud. The air is sharp, carrying the faint tang of smoke from a burning farmhouse miles away. A young U.S. Army Ranger lies prone in a narrow ditch, face pressed into damp earth. PFC Jack Reynolds squints through binoculars at the blackened outline of the POW camp's outer fence. He counts the watchtowers, memorizes the patrol patterns, listens to the occasional cough or murmur from within. Around him, the rest of his squad is spread across the field, their breaths forming small clouds in the night air, rifles at the ready. Reynolds' mind drifts for a moment. He thinks of his father, a World War I veteran, and of the letters from home he has carried for months without answering. But those thoughts vanish as the sound of a motorcycle engine hums faintly down a distant dirt road. The Rangers freeze. Colonel Henry Mucci, commanding officer of the 6th Ranger Battalion, crouches beside Reynolds, speaking in a whisper sharp enough to cut through the tension. "Remember, Jack," Mucci says, 500 men. Our brothers. We get them out, or they don't make it another week. Understand?" Reynolds nods, gripping his rifle tighter. He had heard the stories: men starved, beaten, suffering under the tropical sun and relentless cruelty. The Japanese guards at Cabanatuan were notorious for their brutality. For many, the camp had become a living hell. A light flickers in one of the guard towers. A shadow shifts below it. The Rangers hold their breath. From the paddy's edge, Filipino guerrillas begin moving quietly, coordinating hand signals, small patches of light from torches guiding them across the wet rice fields. Their presence is silent, yet monumental local knowledge of the terrain would be the difference between life and death tonight. In the distance, inside the barbed wire perimeter, prisoners cough. Some shuffle restlessly. The Japanese guards, oblivious to the approaching danger, continue their rounds. One hums a tune, a small, morbid, humanizing detail in a camp otherwise defined by despair. Mucci taps a wristwatch. 0300, move. The Rangers crawl forward, using the shadows as cover. Each step sinks slightly in mud. Each sound is magnified in the tense silence. The sky begins to lighten slightly, but the night is still their ally. Here, in this quiet before chaos, the plan comes alive. The mission had been months in the making. Intelligence reports had mapped every inch of the camp. Aerial reconnaissance photos had captured guard rotations, watchtower placements, even the small huts where the prisoners were crammed. Local guerrilla informants had provided critical details: a bypass route to the north, the weak point in the perimeter fence, the hidden trails leading to the cover of nearby sugarcane fields. Reynolds glances at Sergeant Roy "Red" McConnell, who gives him a small nod. They had trained for this in every conceivable scenario, but nothing could replicate the reality. Hundreds of emaciated prisoners, hundreds of rifles and bayonets, the ever-present threat of Japanese reinforcements. Failure was not an option. As the first hint of dawn stains the eastern sky, the Rangers approach the northern edge of the camp. From here, they can see the small cluster of bamboo huts where the prisoners sleep. Some stir, some cough. Others are still in a kind of stunned limbo between hope and despair. The moment feels fragile. A single misstep, a snapped twig, a shout, a misfired weapon could ignite the camp into chaos, alerting guards, dooming the mission, and costing lives. Mucci signals, and the Rangers freeze. From the sugarcane lines, guerrillas step into position, machetes in hand. They will provide the vital support, cutting paths, neutralizing patrols silently, guiding the prisoners to the extraction point. For Reynolds, the magnitude of the operation hits in a heartbeat. 500 men, trapped in a living nightmare for over 3 years, counting on a handful of Rangers and local allies to guide them to freedom. He feels the cold mud on his cheek, hears the soft rustle of leaves, smells the faint smoke from distant fires, and for the first time in months, a fragile sliver of hope stirs. The camp seems deceptively quiet. Then, somewhere inside, a prisoner coughs again, a stark reminder of what they fight for. Mucci whispers, "On my signal, we strike." Reynolds' hand tightens on the rifle. Every sense is alert. The night waits, the shadows hold their breath, and history prepares to move. The rice paddies stretch endlessly ahead, slick and reflective under the faint pre-dawn light. Each step the Rangers take sinks them deeper into the cold mud, a physical reminder that this operation is far from a drill. The sugarcane sways gently in the wind, masking their movements, but every snap of a stalk could betray them. Mucci crouches low, scanning the perimeter. 2 men on the east tower, 2 on the west. He whispers, "We go quiet." No mistakes. His voice carries a weight that is more than command, it is resolve. Behind him, the rangers mirror his discipline, eyes fixed, ears straining for any sign of movement. The northern fence lies ahead, a stretch of barbed wire illuminated by the faint glow of lanterns swung by Japanese guards. These men have patrolled this area for years, habituated to routine, blind to the audacity about to unfold. The rangers know the fence is their first obstacle, and a team of engineers has prepared to breach it silently. At the edge of the field, a Filipino guerrilla slips forward with a coil of wire cutters. His hands, callous from years of guerrilla warfare, move deftly. Sweat beads on his forehead, though the air is cold. One wrong motion, one miscalculated pressure on the fence, and the wire will snap like a gunshot in the night. Hold, Muchi orders, raising a hand. The patrol rotates, stepping closer, then veering away. The rangers flatten into the mud, barely breathing. Every second stretches unbearably. From inside the camp, a faint sound metal scraping against metal catches Reynolds' attention. His heart jumps. He glances toward the huts. A prisoner stirs, rolling over in the straw, coughing. The sound echoes unnervingly in the quiet pre-dawn air. For a moment, Reynolds fears the worst, that this tiny, human sound will spark chaos. But then, just as suddenly, it fades, swallowed by the distant hum of a generator. Muchi signals again. Two rangers detach from the main formation, crawling toward the fence. Their wire cutters flash briefly under the dim light, slicing through strands with precision born of training. One moment they are shadow and mud, the next, a passage appears. It is narrow, barely wide enough for a man to slip through, but it will suffice. The rest of the rangers follow, slipping through the breach silently. Behind them, the guerrillas fan out, positioning themselves along likely patrol routes, machetes ready, eyes scanning the dark. They carry not only weapons but knowledge of every hidden ditch, every treacherous puddle, every patch of reeds that could conceal a movement. Inside the camp, the prisoners begin to stir, sensing something in the air they cannot yet define. Many are skeletal, weakened by years of malnutrition and disease. Their hands shake as they sit up on straw-strewn floors. Some whisper to one another, voices hoarse and tentative. One man quietly mutters, "Rangers." And the word hangs in the air like a fragile promise. The rangers split into teams. One moves toward the eastern guard tower, two more toward the western. Their objective: eliminate any threat without raising an alarm. Open the gates and guide the prisoners to the extraction point along the tree line. Each step is choreographed, each breath calculated. Muchi keeps a mental clock. Dawn is approaching, and with it, visibility increases. They have a narrow window, minutes, not hours, to act. The tension is nearly physical, pressing against the skin, tightening the chest. Suddenly, a dog barks somewhere to the south. It is faint, but enough to make the rangers freeze mid-motion. A signal is exchanged with a hand gesture. The team halts, hearts hammering, moments pass like hours. The dog's bark fades. Relief washes over them silently. Muchi leans close to Reynolds. "Stick to the plan. Remember what's at stake." His eyes are steel. Reynolds nods, swallowing the lump of fear in his throat. He can see the huts now, the skeletal forms of men waiting unknowingly, the towers above them. From the perimeter, the wire-cutting team signals all clear. Muchi gives the nod. The approach is complete. The rangers are in position, the breach established, the guerrillas in place. Now, the operation moves from planning to execution. Reynolds catches a faint whiff of smoke-burning rice husks, somewhere to the east, and a sound of shuffling feet. Somewhere, deep inside, a Japanese guard yawns, oblivious to the impending storm. This is the moment that will decide the fate of hundreds of men. The silence is palpable. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. Muchi whispers, "On my count. 3, 2, 1. The night begins to fracture. The first light of dawn barely touches the horizon when the night shatters. Muchi's hand drops, and the rangers spring into action. A sudden, precise volley of silenced rifle shots strikes the eastern tower. Two guards slump to the ground, barely making a sound. The western tower team moves with equal efficiency, neutralizing their targets before the alarm can be raised. Inside the camp, the prisoners stir, sensing something different in the air, an unspoken shift, a promise of freedom. Some glance toward the wire fence that now hangs in the shadows, a narrow opening through which salvation may come. Others are too weak, too emaciated to move quickly. Their eyes, sunken and hollow, widen as the figures of armed men slip through the breach. Reynolds leads his small squad toward the nearest hut. Inside, men cough and groan, faces gaunt, arms thin as bones. He motions with a finger, whispering, "Rangers. Follow us." The prisoners hesitate, disbelief frozen on their faces. Years of captivity have dulled hope. A few murmur, uncertain if this is a dream or a trick. Outside, Filipino guerrillas sweep the perimeter, silently cutting through barbed wire and neutralizing sentries along patrol routes. They work with lethal efficiency. A small group of Japanese soldiers stirs in the southern edge, unaware at first, but a shot rings out, precise and deadly, and they freeze. Within moments, they are incapacitated, bodies silent against the mud and reeds. The rangers and guerrillas converge on the prisoners, urging them toward the tree line. The men move slowly, some needing support from multiple rescuers. The stench of the camp, a mixture of sweat, filth, and untreated wounds, hangs in the air, but the promise of escape invigorates the weak. Reynolds catches sight of Captain Robert Prince, second in command, orchestrating the movement of men with quiet authority. Prince's eyes scan constantly, calculating every step, anticipating every possible threat. His experience, hard-earned and precise, ensures that even the slowest prisoners are shepherded without panic. A Japanese soldier, previously unnoticed, stumbles out of a hut, alarmed. A single ranger, crouched in the shadows, raises his weapon and fires. The man drops silently. No alarm bell, no shouting, just a deadly punctuation mark in a night already full of peril. The prisoners, once paralyzed with fear, begin moving faster. The sight of men in uniform, weapons at the ready, creates a ripple of hope and determination. Come on, come on, Reynolds urges, guiding a group through the narrow breach in the fence. Weak arms cling to stronger ones. Men step over the mud, across puddles, through the sugarcane toward freedom. From the command post, Muchi watches over the operation, binoculars in hand. Every movement, every squad, every small group of prisoners must be accounted for. A single mistake could cost lives. He sees two men lag behind, faces pale, strength failing. He signals two rangers to sweep back, lifting them onto shoulders, carrying them toward the escape route. In one hut, a prisoner, Lieutenant William F. Holohan, spots the rangers for the first time. His face crumples, tears mingling with dirt and sweat. He had given up hope long ago. Now, standing before him, are the men who will lead him out of torment. He rises unsteadily, supported by the rangers. I thought it was too late, he whispers, voice choked. The camp is still not fully quiet. Some Japanese soldiers begin to realize the intrusion. Distant shouts echo across the open fields, but the rangers move methodically, covering each other, ensuring that the prisoners do not panic or scatter. One misstep could ignite the entire camp into alarm, but training and discipline hold them firm. As the first groups reach the tree line, the extraction point comes into view, a patch of dense forest providing cover for hundreds of emaciated men. Guerrillas wave the men toward it, machetes slicing through low-hanging branches. The wind carries the faint smell of earth and leaves, a stark contrast to the stench of the camp. Reynolds glances back. The hut he just left is empty. Every prisoner accounted for, moving steadily toward freedom. A fleeting sense of triumph surges, but there is no time to celebrate. Hundreds of men still remain in the camp, and the operation is far from over. From the southern approach, the faint sound of running feet alerts Muchi to a potential patrol. He signals silently. Rangers split off, intercepting the approaching enemy. A short, sharp firefight erupts. One Japanese soldier falls. Another flees into the night, disappearing into the sugarcane. The rangers maintain absolute control, minimizing noise, minimizing risk to the prisoners. Time stretches thin. The sun, barely over the horizon, begins to illuminate the northern fields. Shadows grow shorter. The narrow window for success is closing. Every second matters. And yet, in the chaos, a small but powerful transformation occurs. Prisoners begin to believe. Faces once hollow with despair now show sparks of hope. Weak legs find rhythm, trembling arms steady themselves, and the ragged, emaciated figures start moving as one. They are no longer captives. They are men reclaiming their lives. Reynolds moves toward Muchi, catching his eye. Muchi gives a subtle nod. 100 men are already through the tree line. Another 100 follow. The rhythm of escape is underway, methodical, relentless, unstoppable. The first contact has been made. The breach achieved. And still, the heart of the camp awaits. The quiet inside Cabanatuan is shattered. The sound of running feet, shouted commands in Japanese, and the occasional rifle crack reverberates across the camp. Dawn has broken, light filtering through clouds and casting long, stark shadows over the barbed wire and bamboo huts. The Japanese guards, caught off guard, scramble to respond. Inside one of the larger huts, a group of prisoners huddles together. Faces gaunt, eyes wide, they struggle to comprehend the sudden eruption of noise. Sergeant First Class Henry Hankaiser moves among them, whispering urgent instructions. Stay low, stay quiet, follow us. One step at a time. His voice is calm but firm, an anchor amidst the chaos. Reynolds' squad sweeps through the camp systematically. Every hut is checked, prisoners guided to the breach. Rangers covering each movement with precise measured shots when a guard attempts to resist. The smell of smoke and sweat mingles, an acrid reminder of the years of suffering within these walls. Some prisoners stumble, legs weak from malnutrition, but hands grasp theirs or those of guerrillas pulling them forward. A Japanese officer, realizing the perimeter has been compromised, raises his pistol. The gesture is met with immediate action. A ranger steps from the shadows, firing a single round. The officer drops without a sound, his uniform stained with blood and mud. Around him, the camp devolves into controlled frenzy, the systematic extraction now threatened by panic. Muchi moves along the edge of the tree line, binoculars pressed to his eyes. Guerrillas wave frantically, guiding escaping prisoners through narrow paths in the sugarcane fields. Each route has been scouted for months, small ditches, low hedges, mud paths, every natural obstacle leveraged for cover. Yet with hundreds moving, maintaining order is a monumental task. Lieutenant Holohan, now moving steadily with a ranger on each side, glances back at the camp. Flames from a small burning hut cast flickering shadows, illuminating the desperation etched on the remaining prisoners' faces. Some freeze in disbelief, unable to trust that freedom is real. Others, emboldened by the sight of their rescuers, push forward, ignoring pain and exhaustion. Suddenly, a Japanese machine gun opens fire from a partially obscured guard post near the southern fence. The bullets whip through the early morning air, plowing into the mud with lethal precision. Rangers return fire, suppressing the threat, while guerrillas guide the prisoners away from the line of fire. A split-second decision left or right, over the ditch or through the reeds, becomes a matter of life and death. Kaiser sees a prisoner collapse under the strain of weak legs. Without hesitation, he hoists the man onto his shoulders, moving through the mud and dodging stray bullets. Around him, other rangers mirror the effort, bodies braced against exhaustion, carrying their charges through the fields, across shallow ditches, toward the cover of the tree line. Reynolds pauses briefly beside a collapsed Japanese guard, glancing at the man's face, young, frightened, a boy pressed into war. The rangers do not hesitate. Yet in that brief moment, the human cost of the mission presses down. Death surrounds them, but their mission remains singular. Rescue the prisoners, preserve life wherever possible, complete the operation. The camp is in open chaos. Smoke curls from the huts, scattering the early morning light, creating pockets of shadow where escapees can move unseen. Some Japanese soldiers attempt to regroup, but coordination is impossible. Panic has taken hold. One officer shouts, trying to rally men, but confusion dominates. The disciplined facade of the guards crumbles in the face of precision-trained, relentless intruders. As the prisoners pour toward the tree line, their numbers swell hundreds, now moving as one toward freedom. Each man carries scars of captivity, swollen limbs, sores, missing teeth, eyes sunken from hunger and disease. Yet they march, guided by rangers and guerrillas, through mud and cane into the forest. Muchi signals to Reynolds and Kaiser. The southern tower is neutralized. Move the last groups quickly, every second counts. Japanese reinforcements may arrive at any moment. 2 prisoners stumble near the camp's edge, too weak to continue. Guerrillas sprint forward, grasping their arms and shoulders, dragging them through the last meters of tree line. A bullet whizzes past, striking mud beside them. Not a word is spoken. Action replaces thought. Survival replaces fear. By mid-morning, the bulk of the prisoners are through the tree line. From the camp, the cries of the remaining guards are faint, sporadic mere echoes of an authority that has lost control. Rangers and guerrillas sweep the last paths, ensuring no one is left behind. Reynolds, exhausted, leans against a sugarcane stalk. He glances back at the camp, a shattered skeleton of huts, barbed wire, and guards overwhelmed. Hundreds of men have escaped death. Hundreds of men now breathe air that is free. The chaos is fading, replaced by a tense, controlled withdrawal. Guerrillas guide prisoners deeper into the forest, rangers covering every exit route. Dawn is now fully risen, casting pale light over the fields, turning the mud a dull, reflective gray. Amidst the quiet, only one sound dominates: the soft, ragged breathing of men who have survived unimaginable hardship, each step carrying them farther from hell. The camp is a ruin of fear and order lost, but the mission presses forward. The forest greets them with silence, but it is a deceptive one. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig carries the threat of discovery. The rescued prisoners move slowly, many leaning on rangers or guerrillas for support. Their legs are weak, their lungs burning, but the drive to survive pushes them forward. The canopy above filters the pale morning light into a mosaic of shadows and green. Reynolds walks beside Holohan, supporting him with a steady hand on his shoulder. "Almost there," he whispers. The words are simple, yet they carry the weight of months, years of captivity, hunger, and abuse. Holohan nods weakly, each step an act of sheer will. Around them, the other prisoners shuffle in long lines, guided by rangers and guerrillas who maintain constant vigilance. The terrain is unforgiving. Muddy streams crisscross their path, roots twist beneath their feet, and thorny undergrowth scratches at exposed skin. Guerrilla scouts move ahead and behind, scanning for Japanese patrols. Their machetes slice through thick vegetation, opening narrow corridors that become lifelines for the weary prisoners. Suddenly, a distant shout echoes through the trees. A Japanese patrol has been alerted, likely by the gunfire in the camp. Muchi halts the column, signaling for silence. Every heart beats faster. The rangers spread, forming a defensive perimeter around the prisoners. "Keep moving. Keep low," Muchi whispers, his eyes scanning the shadows. Bullets whip through the foliage ahead. A firefight erupts in bursts, short and lethal. The rangers return fire, targeting the patrol while guerrillas usher the prisoners along hidden paths. One of the weaker men stumbles, twisting an ankle in the mud. Reynolds and a guerrilla rush to lift him, carrying him through the last stretch of tree line. The escape route has been scouted meticulously. A network of trails leading to a secondary pickup point where trucks and additional guerrilla forces await. The path snakes along ridges and streams, every bend offering both concealment and risk. The group moves as silently as possible, though the sounds of exhaustion coughs, groans, rustling clothing betray them intermittently. In the distance, the faint rumble of trucks signals the approaching extraction. Relief flickers in the prisoners' eyes, but the rangers remain vigilant. The Japanese are still in pursuit, and every second is precious. A small firefight erupts near a bend in the trail. A ranger fires from cover, taking down an approaching guard. No one hesitates. Survival demands immediate action. As the column presses on, the sun rises higher, filtering through the leaves in shafts of golden light. The prisoners, some still too weak to walk alone, are lifted, guided, and carried. Guerrillas clear the path ahead, moving with the confidence of those who know the land intimately. The forest, once oppressive and unfamiliar, becomes a shield. By mid-morning, the group reaches a small clearing where trucks are concealed under camouflage netting. Rangers and guerrillas coordinate quickly, loading the prisoners onto the vehicles. The weak and injured are assisted first. The stronger ones follow. Each man's face reflects exhaustion, disbelief, and relief. Many cannot comprehend that the nightmare has ended. Reynolds glances back at the forest line, recalling the camp, the towers, the barbed wire, the countless men they were racing against death to save. The weight of the mission settles over him, but it is tempered by the knowledge that hundreds of lives have been reclaimed. Muchi climbs into the lead vehicle, shouting instructions to the drivers. Engines rumble softly, hidden under the ambient sounds of the jungle. The convoy begins to move slowly, taking the winding trail toward the safety of Allied-controlled territory. Every curve and dip in the road is navigated with care. The Japanese may still be nearby. Inside the trucks, prisoners glance at one another, many unable to speak. Eyes meet, and for the first time in years, they see hope reflected in the faces of fellow men and their rescuers. Some weep quietly, others whisper prayers, and a few simply close their eyes, letting the rhythm of movement carry them away from the nightmare. The rangers remain at the periphery, scanning, covering, coordinating. The danger is not fully over until the convoy reaches secure lines. Every sense is alert, every movement calculated. Guerrilla scouts fan out, keeping watch for lingering threats. By late morning, the sounds of pursuit fade. The first taste of safety washes over the group as the trucks emerge onto a small clearing leading to the main road under Allied control. Relief is palpable, though exhausted bodies and minds can barely process it. For many, the war outside the camp has continued, but for these men, the nightmare of Cabanatuan is over. The prisoners are free. The trucks roll steadily along the narrow jungle trail, engines muffled against the soft hum of the morning. Inside, the prisoners slump in their seats, bodies trembling from exhaustion, hunger, and disbelief. Some clutch hands, others press faces into the backs of seats, unable to speak. For many, words fail them. Only tears articulate the magnitude of their escape. Reynolds glances across at Lieutenant Holohan, whose face is pale but calmer than moments ago. "You're safe now," Reynolds murmurs. Holohan exhales slowly, a long, shuddering breath. He runs a hand across his face, feeling the coarse stubble and the thin, frail skin that has endured years of starvation and abuse. I can't believe it, he whispers. I can't believe it's over. Outside the trucks, the jungle recedes into undulating fields and patches of cleared terrain. Filipino guerrillas guide the convoy with practiced precision, signaling for caution at every bend and elevation. Muchi rides in the lead vehicle, scanning constantly, aware that Japanese patrols, though likely scattered and disoriented, could still pose a threat. The Rangers, trained to move quickly yet methodically, remain vigilant. The convoy finally reaches the Allied perimeter in central Luzon. The first sight of American soldiers, olive drab uniforms and rifles at ease, brings muted but powerful cries of relief. Prisoners, still weak and unsteady, lean forward, straining for recognition, for reassurance that this is real. Some fall to their knees weeping openly. Others sit quietly, stunned, as if disbelief must be endured before hope can be fully embraced. Medics rush forward, taking vital signs, handing out water, and helping the men down from the trucks. Each prisoner is a living testament to endurance and suffering. Gaunt faces, sores, infected wounds, shrapnel scars, missing teeth, and hollowed eyes that speak volumes about the brutality endured behind barbed wire. Yet despite their physical fragility, there is an unmistakable spark, life reclaimed, hope restored. Reynolds helps Holohan to a medical tent. Holohan stumbles, knees buckling, and Reynolds catches him, supporting him until he can stand steadily. "You made it," Reynolds says simply. Holohan nods, voice barely audible. "Thanks to all of you, all of you." Muchi surveys the scene. Around him, Rangers and guerrillas assist the last of the prisoners, coordinating with medics, distributing rations, and documenting identities. The operation has been a success, decades of preparation, reconnaissance, and meticulous planning distilled into a single life-saving morning. Yet for Muchi, the weight of responsibility lingers. Every life matters. Every error avoided is a victory. But none of it can erase the years of suffering endured by these men. A small group of prisoners, once officers and NCOs, gather near the edge of the clearing. They exchange quiet words, sharing fragments of memory from the camp. The hunger, the beatings, the faintest hope that perhaps someone, somewhere, remembered them. They speak of those who did not survive, whose absence weighs on their hearts even in the relief of liberation. Meanwhile, Filipino guerrillas retreat into the surrounding vegetation, disappearing almost as silently as they arrived. Their knowledge of the terrain and swift, lethal efficiency were critical to the operation's success. Muchi nods in appreciation to the few who remain for final coordination. Without them, hundreds of lives would have been lost to the unforgiving logic of Japanese patrols. As the sun rises higher, light pours over the airstrip where the wounded and exhausted are prepared for evacuation by transport planes. The sound of propellers spinning, men shouting orders, and stretchers being carried across the tarmac fills the air. Prisoners now grasp blankets, provided food and water, allowing the first sensations of comfort since captivity to wash over them. Reynolds steps back for a moment, watching men reconnect with the simplest forms of human dignity. One prisoner embraces a fellow soldier, shaking with emotion. Another smiles, weakly but undeniably, at the sight of medical personnel tending to their wounds. The scene is quiet yet profoundly human, a tableau of survival against all odds. Colonel Muchi surveys the operation's conclusion with a mixture of relief and solemn pride. "We did it," he murmurs quietly. Yet in his mind, the reality remains stark. These men carry scars that will never fully heal, memories of Cabanatuan that will haunt them long after the war is over. The Rangers and guerrillas have delivered them from immediate danger, but the journey to complete recovery, physical, emotional, and psychological, has only just begun. Reynolds feels exhaustion in every muscle, but the sight of men walking, some leaning heavily, others steadily, towards safety, invigorates him. The weight of months of tension, planning, and anticipation lifts slightly. He allows himself a brief glance toward the horizon, where the sun now illuminates the rolling fields of Luzon. Freedom, fragile, yet undeniable, stretches before them. For the rescued men, the experience is nearly surreal. The transition from prisoner to free man is overwhelming, a mixture of relief, disbelief, and the need to simply survive another hour, another day. Medical teams quickly triage the most severely affected, while others are allowed moments to rest, to eat, to speak quietly to comrades about survival, about the future that seemed impossible only hours before. The raid on Cabanatuan will become legendary not only for the daring execution but for its human impact. 500 men rescued from near certain death, the culmination of meticulous planning, local knowledge, and extraordinary courage. And as the first waves of aircraft carry the most vulnerable toward complete safety, the magnitude of what has been accomplished begins to sink in. The men who survived glance back toward the camp one final time. In its ruins, shadows linger, ghosts of suffering, reminders of endurance, and a testament to the price of freedom. By late afternoon, the last of the rescued prisoners have been transported to secure Allied positions. Exhaustion weighs heavily on every survivor, yet there is an unmistakable sense of relief, a collective exhale after weeks, months, and in some cases years of constant fear and suffering. The camp itself remains behind them, a scarred landscape of barbed wire, shattered huts, and scorched earth. For the Japanese soldiers who remained, the aftermath is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities even disciplined forces face when confronted with precision, planning, and audacity. Colonel Henry Mucci, his uniform damp with sweat and streaked with mud, surveys the scene with quiet satisfaction. His rangers, equally weary but alert, gather near the extraction point. There is no celebration, there is only the solemn understanding of what has been accomplished. Lives have been saved, but the scars of war are permanent. Mucci takes a moment to reflect on the men who did not survive the ordeal, those who perished within the camp, and the human cost of captivity. Across the Philippines, news of the raid spreads quickly among Allied forces. The Cabanatuan operation becomes an immediate example of what meticulous intelligence, local support, and unwavering courage can achieve behind enemy lines. In war reports, the mission is described as an extraordinary feat of arms, a daring strike that combines stealth, bravery, and careful coordination. The rescued prisoners face a new battle: recovery. Many are severely malnourished, plagued with disease, and mentally scarred by the atrocities they endured. Hospitals and field medics work tirelessly to restore strength and treat wounds, while Red Cross personnel provide basic necessities: clothing, hygiene supplies, and nourishment that many had gone years without. The men speak quietly, recounting experiences, sharing stories of camaraderie and endurance, and slowly rebuilding the sense of humanity stripped away by captivity. For the Rangers and Filipino guerrillas, the operation reinforces a fundamental truth about warfare. Success is measured not only in territory captured or objectives achieved, but in lives saved. Their professionalism and courage become a benchmark for future operations. Historians would later note the raid as one of the most successful behind-the-lines rescue missions in military history, highlighting both the planning and the human element, the unwavering commitment to those in desperate need. In the years that follow, the survivors of Cabanatuan remember the raid with reverence. Annual reunions and memorial services honor the men who orchestrated and executed the mission, as well as those who endured the unimaginable inside the camp. Oral histories, letters, and interviews preserve the stories of bravery, endurance, and compassion, ensuring that the raid becomes a touchstone of both military strategy and human resilience. Mucci himself continues to reflect on the operation. In interviews decades later, he emphasizes the role of collaboration, the indispensable support of Filipino guerrillas, the courage of his rangers, and the perseverance of the prisoners themselves. It wasn't just the rangers, he says. It was everyone working together, knowing that lives depended on every decision, every movement. That's what made it work. Cabanatuan remains a symbol of hope amidst the horrors of World War II. It is a stark reminder of the capacity for human cruelty, but also of the extraordinary courage, ingenuity, and solidarity that can overcome it. The raid demonstrates that even in the darkest circumstances, lives can be reclaimed, dignity restored, and history shaped by acts of bravery and compassion. For the 500 men who walked out of the jungle that January morning, Cabanatuan is both a place of horror and a place of salvation. Each survivor carries the memory of friends lost, the relief of freedom, and the indelible mark of having faced near-certain death and lived. The operation also leaves a lasting military legacy. Ranger units worldwide study the raid for its lessons in small unit tactics, coordination with local forces, reconnaissance, and timing. It becomes a model for future special operations, emphasizing the importance of intelligence, planning, and precision execution in high-risk rescue missions. Decades later, memorials at former POW sites, veterans' reunions, and historical accounts continue to honor the men of Cabanatuan. Photographs, oral histories, and official records ensure that the courage of rangers, guerrillas, and prisoners alike is remembered not just as an episode of war, but as a testament to resilience, collaboration, and the enduring human spirit. Cabanatuan, once a symbol of despair, transforms in memory into a story of triumph, a stark, unforgettable chapter in the broader history of World War II, illustrating both the horrors endured and the heights of bravery achieved.